imagine so easily in this match. I mean, they were given perhaps a little bit of frustration there by Exile5, just letting that match drag out for so long. So they'll be keen to get this one underway, get this one started, and maximise that advantage that they now have being on the CT side.
I think so. I think frustration's key. If I was to say anything, though, and probably a final point on this matter, is that we saw how well they bounced back on the first night against Trident, where perhaps they had a similar frustration on the first map. Mirage being very close, eventually pulled through, and then they came out and absolutely stopped Trident on the second map. So they were able to very quickly turn things around and almost look like a rejuvenated team on the second map. If that's going to be the case for Exile5 now, potentially, that's going to be a horrible situation for them. I think they were... they finished with 10 rounds in the first map. That was probably generous in the end. I'd hate to think what a switched-on IM might do to Exile5 in their current state.
Yeah, we said that at the start of this matchup, whether or not, I guess, IM would win emphatically, or whether they let things drag out perhaps a little bit longer than they wanted to. So I guess all will be revealed very, very shortly as this match now gets underway. Exile5 on the terrorist side, Team Immunity on the CT side for this second map overpass. They will just split nice and easy towards that B site. Pex has got himself into short area and now has himself in water. They are just going to watch that door. They have great territory early on. Team Immunity just sitting back and happy to let them have this territory early on, and we will see a smoke or two make their way onto this B site. So I think it's only a matter of time before Exile5 reveal their hand, as Pex is just keen to be unleashed.
We can see them setting up for a B attack. The smoke will go over the wall, but Immunity actually have 4 members positioned in the B site here. So while Sniper has been temporarily smoked off, there is a gap there, and he does have 3 teammates in the site to do the damage. Emag with the Julie, second time in a row tonight, we've seen that, but can't quite put it to good use. Sniper does get one, James with another, but as it is going X5's way. It's down to a 1-on-2, all left up to Sniper, the in-game leader, up in the Sniper deck. How fitting is that? But he does put out one member move towards sandbags, and I think off the sound of that grenade beneath him, you'll now know the position of the second member. So the ball is in Sniper's court, does have a kit as well, which will buy him 5 extra seconds worth of time potentially to defuse should he get to that. He's looking for Dan's here. He knows he was once around this area, but Dan's well positioned, had a lot of HP, and it always helps when you shoot on their head to get the job done, and that he does. 1-0 Exile5. We've finally seen them take the lead tonight.
Finally seen them take the lead tonight. Now, Sniper just punished them for that small gap they left in the smoke up on the Sniper deck, but unfortunately not able to capitalise there, even though Dan's did grenade himself in that situation. But Team Immunity now just going to play a scout and pistol buy, so they have backed themselves this round, utilising the long areas of the map with these scouts and the P250s just to clean up any tags that they may be able to make, as Molotov $300 simply sits there and just burns.
Surely you'd have to give one of the scouts to Ricky, though. I mean, even if you can't afford it, surely you drop it to the best sniper in Australia. It's in the hands of James and Sniper.
That being said, though, Ricky is a proficient pistol player, so merits for both sides. As Dance does pick up that first frag, does get a bink, though, and unfortunately for Ricky, not able to capitalise on that. Maybe he was better off with that scout.
Would have made it with the Sniper.
As unfortunately now they are on the back foot. James doesn't have any information there of what's happening at long, and Exile5 are just going to make their way onto this B site. It has been made, that call. They are going to stream on in, and these MP7s are going to be tested. Sniper now just backs off a little bit. They know his position. I'd assume they would try and save these guns and take them into the next round, because again, if they can maintain the high level of threat that is possessed by a scout, then they are going to put a lot of pressure on Exile5 if they can maintain this weaponry.
Yeah, I think Sniper's quite safe where he's at the moment. He does get a nice frag there through the box onto Deeks. He will back off now, so he was really just trying to inflict, as Jim goes into a coughing fit, as much possible economic damage as he can do. But as it is, I think we will see all members survive here. Ustilo has managed to work his way around into a cheeky little position there near T-Spawn. I'm not quite sure if they'll suspect that, actually. We'll see how it all turns out, but STV on the hunt as well. It's quite a large bomb radius, but he's certainly safe there. Or at least he's safe from the bomb, not from Sniper. So look at those late frags coming in from Immunity there. It doesn't seem like much, but it's going to force 4 members of Team Exile5 to force buy in this situation. It's definitely going to make them I guess, Team Immunity think about force buying because they did so much economic damage and they've done just that. He still has picked up a P90. There's a couple of pistols again. I like this decision this time, buying early when they've done a lot of damage in the previous few rounds.
Very smart decision by Sniper, as he recognised that economic stress they can cause means they will have a lack of utility, but Emag does fall quite early to the combination of Pex and Diggs, getting spammed through that smoke. And now Team Immunity just backing off from their positions a little bit. And just a little bit on the back foot. They do obviously buy in that situation. He does tag a few members of Exile5 there. Diggs copying the brunt of it. So those P50s may play a role just yet in this round as Exile5 just regrouping towards this B site here. That bomb will make its way in, but they really haven't committed to anything just yet. They're just playing the waiting game.
They are, but it's quite strange when you see Immunity moving around their forces. They're all walking past each other. There doesn't seem to be much structure at the moment. I know it is a force buy, and inherently that means things are a little bit abnormal as they are, but it's funny to see them walking around. X5 making the frags when they count, though. I mean, at the end of the day, that's all that matters. They're now in a 5-on-3 situation. I like this call. It does look like they're falling back to A. They've showed a lot of presence at B and put a lot of pressure and got a few frags there. James, I think, pushing through the beach now, will spot them out falling back, and that's all the information Justillo needs. He steadies himself for an A attack, gets one frag, but can't quite do any more damage. But as they move into the A site, Diggs, ever so careful, ever so cautious about perhaps any other CTs lying in wait. But if he was to know what we could know, it's very safe to plant. You can see STV here, just mindful of the flank, and nice pick up there. He does suspect that James had pushed through. It's all down to Sniper in a 1-on-2. We saw him in a similar situation on the pistol round now, didn't we? But this time he's a little bit better equipped. STV on very low HP as well, but I guess the saving grace here for the terrorists is that the bomb is planted for them. He doesn't have much time left on the clock. He does spot out one member. Can't quite finish him off. I can't believe how much skin STV was showing there on little HP, but in the end, it didn't punish him in that sense, and Sniper gonna have to force to save his gun here. 3-0, X5.
He does save that Galil and perhaps look around the site for another gun. Doesn't quite manage to do so, but yeah, he played a smart game there, and as we see, well, Team Immunity will be forced onto an eco round here. XL5 just running with that momentum, but as you can see, their economy is still very fragile, Nick.
Definitely, I mean, that's the consequence, isn't it, when you force buy on that third round? I mean, I do like the decision, though. The difference between this time and when they did it on Cobble on the last map was that this time, the previous round, they had got 4 frags. XL5 were on that tilt financially, so it made sense in the context of the game. Unfortunately for them, they weren't able to make those key frags, and it's now meant that they're essentially going to be 4-0 down once that eco round is complete. Third with a nice, tricky little headshot there in the playground. It's normally a terrible situation when you hear about mass killings in the playground, but in this case, as Jim just shakes his head. In hindsight, I shouldn't have said that, but in any case, we will see Exile5 here moving to 4 rounds.
Yeah, Justillo will need to salvage something, much like Nick will probably need to write a public apology there, but look, Justillo just lurking around, trying to get a gun there. He does come face to face with Dance. That Mac 10 does a lot of damage and not able to do anything there for Team Immunity at the moment, as that lead now goes to 4-zip. XL5 on the upper here, but they will face a gun round from Team Immunity. Team Immunity now will need to try and string a few rounds here together. They don't want to repeat of the last map. They need to capitalise on the advantageous side of Overpass. Ricket does cop an early grenade. XL5 recognising that he does like to get very aggressive and pick, and he does cop a lot of damage for that. In the meantime, Pex and STV are just combining so well and getting the early frags as they did last round, and continue on and just apply a bit of pressure to this B site, forcing a rotation out of Team Immunity. Just allowing themselves the option of going wherever they like. The CT Immunity side are being stretched thin and thin across the sites.
Well, I think they've almost given up on this round. You can see Justillo and Ricky running away from the bomb sites. They're just looking for a safe place to save now because they would have had Sniper up there on the deck, relaying the information to both Ricky and Justillo that the terrorists had moved into the B site, and by that point, it was too late to recover. It had to be mission save weapons. There was no longer an option to retake that round, I guess, with any sort of reliable and consistent success. They have opted to save. They are now, look at the overlay, so far away from the terrorist here that you can't imagine there'd be any more, I guess, kills or action really going down this round. But XL5, I love the way in particular, whilst it didn't eventuate in a frag, as we did see Ricky here hearing a few footsteps and making the shot. I love the way they threw that early HE grenade towards Ricky. That can sometimes be hit and miss where, depending on the spawn timings, they can sometimes find that the CT just beats the terrorist there and can get that frag. But as it was, worked out perfectly for XL5. They are now managing to get a nice little exit frag there as well. So Ricky does go down with the AWP, Jim.
Yeah, look, we saw it on Cobble, actually, on their CT side. Ricky's AWPing was restricted by their economic situation. Now, that obviously led them to bleed a few rounds to XL5, and we might see a repeat performance of this again, as we see his economy has been damaged so much so that he's on a FAMAS buy. Now, this is a technical pause, as I do believe their TeamSpeak communications have died. So we will pause momentarily, but I think it might just act as a momentum breaker for Team Immunity as much as it would for XL5, in the sense that they need to get their tech issue sorted.
I really like the way that Team XL5, almost every single round, they're quite persistent on taking control of the water area just outside B. By doing so, and then eventually clearing out the stairwell as well, it just gains you so much map control and fast rotation between both sites. We did see Immunity try and challenge X5 that round by pushing 2 members down from the sandbags, but they're almost caught in no man's land where they had to fight one at a time. No trade frags could go down from Team Immunity. So I love XL5's persistence, and I guess clearly the structure that they've brought into this map to take control of that specific area of the map. It's really boding well for them as a team.
Yeah, look, Pex and STV are going to continue this aggression down into that sewer there, and they are just flying through. Dan's springing into action off that ladder as they just get a lot of territory quite early here, XL5. I think that's been the key to their round so far. Pex picking up another frag there, but he has been cut short by EMAG with that FAMAS, and Sniper only had a P250 to his name that round. He was martyring himself for the greater good, and unfortunately his economy will probably be hurt further in the context of this match. But XL5 now just redistributing themselves amongst the sites there. They are just holding firm in the water there. STV just holding the fort down, making sure Team Immunity don't get too much information about what the terrorists are doing. I think that's key at the moment. Team Immunity have no information.
Well, they don't, do they? They're so far back in the sites, both at B and at A. At A, interesting to note that both members there, I believe it's Ricky and even Ustilo, I believe, they're doing a double stack there, trying to look over the toilets down in towards the mid area, trying to catch the terrorist off guard. But you can see Ferg is actually making his way up A long, perhaps trying to sell a bit of a fake, because the bomb and a few of his teammates are positioned at B, but they're not to know it's a fake because they've got no presence at A long if you're the CT side. So Ustilo having to look both ways, does throw down a smoke. It should allow him to turn around to the site, but Ferg picking up a great frag there. It's caused the rotation and open up the B site, and STV pouncing on that. The bomb will now get planted. James and Ustilo, they're forced to scramble towards the B site now, but the utility's already been set up to really block them out of the site.
That's it, and now STV spots out the head, and unfortunately doesn't get the frag there. Dans and Diggs combining to do the damage, but Team Immunity on their map pick are just being, I guess, kept honest by XL5.
Have a look at the scoreboard though. I mean, not even that. Not even kept honest. They're getting slammed at the moment, I think it's fair to say. James, Emad and Ricky, 1 frag apiece. They've really been kept quiet for the first 6 rounds, and this is multiple gun rounds now we're talking about. It's not just one, perhaps, and a few eco rounds. It's starting to be a consistent body of work that XL5 are producing here on this map, and they're now in a position where they've really set themselves up well. They have a lot of utility. They've got a lot of spare cash in the bank to be able to keep on buying should things go a bit pear-shaped in the next round or so. Immunity on eco again now, and as they enter the B site, which is actually unguarded, if they're to use their utility wisely, it should be another free plant coming their way.
The Sticks does open up that B site with a crucial frag there. Emag, sitting on those sandbags, does pick up a frag onto Ferg, and Dan's just cleaning things up for his team. Janitor role being played as he steps out of those stairs. He is aware that Sniper may have pushed behind and perfectly places his crosshair. Unfortunately, though, Sniper just sharper with that P250. Dan's whiffing all of his shots there as he does pick up a second frag as well, STV. I don't know, he didn't actually manage to collect the gun and get away with it just yet, but He is going to try and come face to face here with Pex. Pex not aware of his position. Does get shot on the side as Sniper gets a third frag for the round, doing a bit of economic damage and finally collecting himself a gun. So he'll take that into the next round, and as we see, Team Immunity's money is starting to look a little bit healthier, but again, they have invested a lot across the board.
They need to wake up now, though. It's 7-0 down. It is, I guess, the perception within the Australian community, at least from our gameplays, that it is a CT-sided map when both teams are equally prepared and equally matched. At the moment, Exile5 on the T side, by that reckoning, the disadvantaged side is 7-0 up. Again, we see them taking control of the water. A few Molotov grenades from Immunity, I think, over the wall early on to try and put a bit of pressure there. But that hasn't been enough. I don't think the timing was quite right because Pex and I think also STV and Dans were safely able to get there without really putting themselves under too much jeopardy. And it does look as though a sneaky little boost might come into play here. STV positioning himself to perfection. Get on my head, he's telling his teammate. Good things await you.
Get on my head. The catch cry of a generation here in Australian CS. STV and Pex, not as aggressive as they were last round. Pex just restraining himself a little bit, but as you can see, he's just raring to go, ready to get off that leash as he does pick into that B site. Cabs face to face. Gets the frag onto James. That both drawn into a spray there. And Pex takes a lot of damage, but comes out the victor as they are pressuring this B site quite a lot. STV straight in there. Picks up Emag. I'm not too sure whether he was blind and didn't know he got the frag or not, but nonetheless, they are into this site. A crucial frag being made there as Dans aggressively steps up onto that pile of wood and gets a frag, but he's traded out quite quickly by Ustillo. Team Exile5 are just simply taking Team Immunity to the cleaners.
They're putting so much pressure on them there. It looked as though even that last frag that they got, I believe it was Sniper trying to get out of the pit. It looked as though the decision there was he'd already decided to save. I think he was trying to back off. So he was caught out in the open there trying to run away from the site. Meanwhile, up in the Sniper deck, I think Ustillo there, even as he's trying to run away, there's gunfire coming in, there's Molotov grenades, smoke grenades. All hell was breaking loose all across the map just there at B. And I love the pressure that X5 are showing. Something's changed in the last 10 minutes or so because this is a team that's looking invigorated. And it almost seems to me as though the success that they've had early on in this map has really sparked some life back into the team. Instead of playing catch-up like they had to on Couple, this is a team that's now had the opportunity to lead from the front, and it's given them a lot of confidence. And that it will happen when you're talking about a new team. This is how a team builds confidence, by taking rounds and eventually, hopefully for their sake, maps off big-name teams.
You're exactly right. This is the sort of momentum that starts legacies. Now, I don't mean that in the pun, in the sense that we do have legacy playing later on in the season, but look, Exile5 are just, I guess, really shocking Immunity into submission here. Now, look, it's not beyond Immunity. We've seen them come back from, I guess, worse score lines. I think, domestically they came back from a 12-3 to take things to overtime. So they are prepared to grind out matches, but at the moment they really don't have any answers. So we do see Pex again just pressuring this B site. He will be an ever-present threat. As Team Immunity, for the moment, get caught out. Ricker pushing A long there and unfortunately falling as Ferg plays a great lurking game.
I love the distraction and annoyance that Ferg's been providing today. We saw him rushing up long A one round. He's just getting those one or two frags that really, they're the frags that make or break rounds for his team. It's putting so much pressure on the CTs at A now. You can see him throwing off a few smoke grenades and flashes, but he will now quickly retreat down the stairwell. They've had control of the stairs now for over a minute and a half onto the B site where they've had so much success. Pex leading the way in. We've seen the frag that he's produced tonight, and this map has been no different. Does get a frag there onto Emag. Dans follows it up, and as Pex gets his second for the round, this is another round going in favour of Exile5. The underdog story. Can this be happening? It's forced Ustillo into another save situation. What is happening for Immunity? They're falling apart in front of our eyes.
They're simply being picked apart by Exile5. As you said, Ferg making a great use of his lurking ability. And we saw that last night. We saw the team leaders really getting that solo information play. And it's working wonders for their teams. Now, Immunity have taken a tactical pause here in the sense that things aren't going right. Sniper needs to rework something here because he is being outplayed by his old master in Ferg. Now, Ferg clearly didn't teach him everything he knew.
Oh, he's been saving something for the last 10 years waiting for this night, I think, Jim. I mean, we've pointed out was just trying to think of the best way to word this. He pointed out in the past that Sniper's leadership style was that he likes to micromanage his team. I mean, he's got incredible talent. He's very particular about how he moves his forces around the map, what positions they take, what utility they use. That's perfect. We've got no issue at all with that. I was quite the same as an in-game leader. Where that can sometimes get unstuck, though, and specifically from watching their games in the past, is that sometimes when things aren't going well, which is, that's real life, that stuff happens, that sort of leadership style doesn't always lend itself to taking on feedback from some of your teammates as openly as some other leadership styles might. I mean, we've got here on Exile5, they've got Ferg and STV, two very experienced players, played with each other a long time. They know each other very well. I have no doubt that STV has his, I guess, very close to Ferg and very open leadership structure. But Immunity, it's not that same atmosphere. Sniper likes things to be his way. And that's good when things are working well for you. When you're down 9-0, though, and perhaps some of your teammates are trying to relay feedback onto you about what's working and what not perhaps isn't working, then perhaps we get into a sticky situation. Of course, it's all speculation, but that's just from experience with these sort of leadership styles.
Yeah, in these sort of situations, I guess those more laissez-faire leadership styles do, and yes, you can Google that, laissez-faire.
I'm doing it right now, mate.
They do lend themselves to, I guess, more success in these situations, and you're taking feedback from your teammates, taking feedback, and they, I guess, as a group, guide what the team is going to do. So, look, the tactical pause is over. Team Immunity do have their soldiers in order, and in the meantime, Exile5, again, are just going to start the way they have so many rounds before. Pex straight into that sewer there, but this time Ustillo has pushed right through those stairs and eliminated STV and Pex respectively, as now an increased level of aggression from Team Immunity has come out. They are a little bit more coordinated in what they're doing, and this has just immediately put Exile5 on the back foot as Ferg under a little bit of pressure there. Doesn't quite get his flash right. Now, this is unbridled aggression from Team Immunity, and it's working wonders as they do simply clean up Exile5.
Now, I might just point out what worked so effectively for Immunity there was not just the fact that Ustillo pushed down the stairwell, but the fact that he actually covered the doorway with the smoke so that he was able to push out into the water and catch both STV and Pex off guard. In previous rounds, Dance has been in control of the stairwell, but that smoke obscured his vision of the door. It allowed Ustillo to step out and catch two members off guard, and from there the round just fell apart for X5. That's not the sort of thing you can pull every round. That'll definitely open up Exile5 to the possibility of it occurring, as we do see the very factor occurring again. Ustillo takes damage this time, but somehow through the smoke gets the frag. I was trying to say X5 would be more prepared, but when they're shooting you through smoke, what difference does it make? 5-on-4, Team Immunity have the number advantage, and they've got a lot of map control here. They've got stairwell control, but they have decided to fall back. I love this from them, because now it means that Exile5 are going to be very, very cautious about what's safe and what isn't, and it's going to expend a lot of their time and energy to clear out almost pointless areas of the map. Of course, they're not to know that.
Yeah, that tactical pause working absolute wonders for Team Immunity. Now, there's always that danger that the other team will adjust it, knowing it's a tactical pause, but that hasn't been the case, as Immunity's aggression has really not been countered at all by Exile5, as they just simply did the same thing over and over again. Now, Team Immunity have the upper hand in this round. Exile5, only 35 seconds to spare, and A will be the object of their affection, as they are going to stream onto this site. Rekka does get the opening frag there. STV will need to try and find a pick for his team, but Diggs is doing the damage. They still haven't eliminated all members on that site. Ustillo is still a present threat, as he does get around that smoke. Great work from him, taking down the bomb. 17 seconds left on the clock. Pex now does find Ustillo, and we'll go 1v1 with Emag. That bomb is down in the site, but only 12 seconds now left on the clock. He does get shot at. Fake the plant, perhaps trying to draw Emag out, but again, he's going to have to go for it here. He has missed the timer, unfortunately. Well played from Emag. Just waiting things out, not needing to step, knowing that it wasn't likely he could shoot him if he did plan in the site there. So Emag just playing the smarter game. Pex not really aware of the time that he had.
Yeah, you could see that by Pex as he ran into the side. He obviously heard Emag shooting him from the stairs area there, just above CT spawn. And I think he was a little bit paranoid that perhaps Emag was pushing in, trying to stop the plant in the last few seconds before the timer ran out. As it was, Emag, the experienced player, the very, very cool-headed player within the Team Immunity, backed off, recognised that, I mean, there was no harm in waiting in that instance. Even if the bomb was planted, Pex was going to be trapped in his position. And in the end, Pex almost fooled himself out of winning that round.
He did psych himself out. Perhaps that lack of experience coming in there, as we said. He's only a new player to the top tier of Australian CS, so unfortunately did fall there in that 1v1. Emag just showing that he's experienced and quite intelligent in these sorts of situations. Now, STV's made his way through Monster there. Does pick up the frag onto Emag and make a way. Somehow Diggs, though, backing his team up quite well there. Sniper does do a good job of getting a trade frag there, but again, Diggs just coming to the rescue of his teammates. Ricker getting the spam frag onto Diggs on that plant, but that bomb does go down more critically as now 2v3 situation will unfold as somehow Ferg is shot within an inch of his life. Justillo will be disappointed with only doing 99 damage. Now this is doable for Ricker. Looking at the HPs, he just needs to get rid of Danz, and Danz is just sitting in that short construction zone. He does tap the defuse, doesn't stick it, but Danz just stepping on him there and continuing Exile5's strong run in his first half.
No, that was crucial. And look at the money as well, because Immunity, whilst they'd strung 2 rounds together, in the previous round in which they won, only 1 member had survived. Of course, that was the round that Emag saved in CT spawn as the timer ran out. My point being that Immunity have been forced continuously now, even when they're winning rounds, to rebuy weaponry and utility. So as soon as they've lost a round, it's now almost reset their economy and they're back to an eco. And that's really what, I guess, 9 rounds to start off with in a half will do to a team. It just sets them up so well that they can continuously apply pressure. Cheeky little double boost coming in here from Ricker. You can actually take so much damage from 1 HE grenade there, and a few spam bullets through the wall from STV will do the job. And again, they're falling apart here. Diggs does spot out the feet, shoots James in the left foot there, so he'll be hobbling for the rest of the match as he does now fall. But this is quickly looking like another round going X5's way. It's all left up to Emag, and hiding in the pit will be no use to him as STV does have the peace of mind to check it. 11-2, Exile5.
Alarm bells must be surely ringing in Team Immunity's head. I mean, they did get the rounds following the tactical pause, but Exile5 have just ground their way back into this match, and let's just see whether or not they do try something aggressive on this round.
I think alarm bells have been ringing for about the last 10 rounds, Jim.
It's a lengthy alarm.
They've almost become too used to the sound of the alarm.
Perhaps choosing to ignore it. Either way, Pex picks up 2 frags in the water there and does get eventually traded out. James doing a great job with 2 replies of his own in there as Emag actually gets taken out by Danz, and already Immunity are under pressure. Sniper has a great position here. Surely hearing Ferg stream up the middle there, and he's just allowing himself to sit there unnoticed. Great position from Sniper. Great information coming through as a result. Now, he will pick up the frag there on Danz, and will take this team by surprise. He does get traded out by Diggs, somehow making that shot, getting off the plant, and now a lot to do for James. He is capable of this, but unfortunately, Ferg picks up the frag there, somehow under that pressure. Diggs was able to get off the plant and simply shoot Sniper. For those of you questioning whether or not he's been playing this game, I think the answer is now obvious.
I was sitting there whilst you were casting, watching Sniper, and just watch him have the peace of mind to not just let the first one run by, but be conscious that there might be more coming that way. He actually let the second run by, and then the third, and I was silently applauding the intelligence of Sniper in that situation, but in the end, he only got 1 frag out of it. That should have been a round-winning decision, letting them run past. That was so much information. He was so well positioned, and with little, I guess, arsenal in which to hold this last round, Exile5 have got the opening frag. There's 3 players with pistols on Team Immunity. Make that 2 as we've just seen Ricker lose his life, and one by one, they're fighting at the same choke point. Emag eventually does win a duel here. It's down to 3-3, but still at a distinct weaponry disadvantage. Oh, look at this. If we're to go third person on this, Jim, this is quite beautiful. They're actually standing side by side here. I just love watching this. In the end, James got the frag there, but Emag, close by, can hear the death rattle in STV's throat.
And it is a death rattle, as they are certainly buoyed by this excellent half so far. Now, that bomb has made its way all the way up, and will make its way through the toilets there. It's A. Now, look, it's just sitting in the stairs, actually, and they're just waiting on some information to come through. Now, Justillo has a great position again, similar to what Sniper did last round, as he's going to get the flank here onto Ferg. Now, he needs to convert this frag here. He's just biding his time. That bomb does go down, and now Danz does have, I guess, good position, but unfortunately doesn't have the bomb. He does spot the head of James now. He does know that Justillo was on the flank. We'll need to take that firefight here, but 9 seconds left. It was a little bit too much for him to do. Team Immunity have a little bit more to work with than they did. But look, 12-3. We have seen them come back from these deficits before. Do you think it's going to be enough for Exile5?
You're putting me on the spot. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I think they're going to close this out. I think they're that close at the moment and they feel with that much confidence. A nice little parallel, though, that I might draw between the two maps is that if we were to reflect back on Cobble, the end of the scoreline there at the first half was also 12-3. In that case, of course, it was in Immunity's favour. Obviously proved to be enough. Immunity, though, they're a very, very, very resilient team. I mean, to add an example here that might give people some context as to what we're talking about. In the grand final of our domestic league only 4 weeks ago, they were playing at LAN at PAX Australia, massive event, exhibition attended by thousands and thousands of people. They were in the grand final on the third map of a BO3. They were down 12-3 in this very situation. Now imagine this, but on land with all the pressure of a final with it and prize money, and they were able to bring it back to overtime in that instance. They actually lost the pistol round in the second half as well, so they were actually down 13-3, and they brought that back to OT. So they've definitely got a lot of fight in them still, but I'm starting to believe, Jim, I think this could be Exile5 on the brink of their first breakout win as a team. My fingers are crossed for them for, I guess, what would add to the spectacle of this season, because if all the teams are playing well, it just makes the competition so much better.
Yeah, we saw it before in Face It. The Team Immunity did unfortunately falter in one of the early matches there, and it did cost them ultimately by not qualifying. Let's just see if a similar storyline plays out here. Obviously, Exile5 have the opportunity to create such a headline if they do win this match. Now, a very reserved start, some would say, but Immunity are just charging straight up towards A here, and Ferg will now have to defend his side. He does pick up one. We'll try and get a second, though. His position, though, has been revealed, and they will trade him out quite quickly. Rikke taking control of now the bank, and will continue to push through. They do realise there is a CT sitting in that area. He does pick up Pex as well. Rikke on the charge, showing us why he's a great pistol player, as Diggs does find a reply of his own. Exile5 do close out the pistol round. Now, it's not curtains yet for Team Immunity, but there's certainly a high chance that this could spiral.
Oh, most definitely. 13-3. They're now in the position. Do we force buy? Do we try and perhaps buy light armor and AK next round or Galil's? As it is, they have full sport. So this is Immunity rolling the dice. This is really their match fate on the line. Because if they were to lose this round, regardless of, I think, frag count or even a bomb plant, they're not going to be left with much money at all. And you can see the strat. You can tell what it is because they're charging into the B site. 3 out canal, 2 out short. They busted onto the A site, or the B site, I should say, where there's 4 CTs lying in wait. As it is, they've managed to get 2 frags apiece, so it's down to a 3-on-3. Ustilo quite advanced in his position here. Does get another frag. One of the best pistol players in the country, putting it to good use, and Dan's. He's down to 1 HP left now, but it's all left up to Rikke, and his position is known, and as he's taken down, Exile5 take a bow. They've moved to 14 rounds, and in Immunity, the alarm bell's been going off now for about half an hour, but it's situation major alert, Jim.
Jeez. The trades in that site were fast and furious. There were more trades being made there than a Pokemon card meet. It was absolute mayhem, but Exile5, just, they had 4 on that site. They recognised the threat and caught it quite well. Immunity under the pump here. STV goes quite aggressive quite early. Somehow Dance falls earlier in the map, but he does pick up his man, STV, and will continue down into the stairs. Now, he's going to be flanked from all sides here. Does pick up Ustilo before Rikke charges up those stairs and collects his gun as well. So, Exile5 losing members early here. They are on the back foot.
Well, that's right. It's a 3-on-3, but look at the HPs. EMAG is very, very low, and definitely they're struggling in terms of weaponry. Well, having said it is quite even, I guess. I've just noticed that Diggs has an MP7. So, utility, EMAG is the sole surviving member. He has 2 flashes and a smoke in that regard. Sniper and Rikke are going to have to rely on their aim to get the frags done. You can see the bomb in the hands of Rikke and EMAG slowly making their way back towards B, but they're going to have to take on Pex at this side, and he's been on fire all night, even when they're winning and losing. He does get spotted out there by Rikke, though, at the Monster Canal, and as he steps around, he commits to the spray, and oh, both of them are so low. Pex down to 4 HP, Rikke on 38. He's biding his time, hiding behind the Yaman pole, as we refer to it in Australia. Somehow gets a frag onto EMAG, and Rikke takes him down eventually, but has the damage been done? He survived for so long. And Diggs, oh, if he was to throw that nade, you can't help but think he would have got the planter. As it is, he gets a double headshot. As Rikke steps out into the open, not expecting that sort of resistance. Diggs gets his team to 15 rounds. And surely, Jim, with 12 match points, this could be history in the making. This might be IM losing their first map of the competition, and X5 really stepping into the spotlight.
Now, I was cheering Diggs on to throw that grenade, but he didn't do it. And look, he came up trumps, obviously, with the 2 frags there, but Exile5 are on the precipice of creating a little bit of history for themselves. Now, look at this aggression on this gun round. They are just simply pushing. Ricker does fall before he gets the frag of Dan, so they are just showing that early aggression. Team Immunity, though, aren't too phased by it just yet. They do get that frag onto the B site. You still are opening things up, and Pex now back on this B site does get a trade frag of his own onto Emag. He knows, though, that that wasn't the case, and is just communicating that there's not really too much going on at this B site. In the meantime, his teammates now are going to be called on this A site. STV hasn't moved an inch, and good Team Immunity, they're just taking this bomb up the long park route.
A lot of these. They have regrouped though, so what they will find as they move the way up to A is that they will come across STV, perhaps another member who might rotate back from B now, having said that. But they're definitely going to have the man advantage because they are grouped as a team. You can see Ustillo leading the charge into the site. He's trying to check all angles, but they haven't checked behind the truck there towards the right-hand side. But STV somehow whiffs his shots. Diggs does get a frag onto Ustillo at CT Bank there. Down to a 2-on-1 situation here. Or 2-on-2, I should say. Sniper does get the frag onto Diggs. It's all left up to Pex. Now, he is flanking from behind, but I am well positioned here. They've got one member at long and Sniper at Bank, so they do have that pincer in play. Pex, of course, not to know this, and he will creep into the site here. He does have the peace of mind to check long, but James well positioned for it. Only 2 members of Team Immunity surviving though, so I would expect to see, even though their money is very, very low, I would expect to see a force buy out of Exile5. They've got nothing to lose here, and Team Immunity are still pressed for cash.
They had plenty of rounds to play for, so if they were going to go for it, which they don't opt to, which is fair enough, they are playing the longer game here, and will choose to put Immunity under pressure a little bit later on in this half, but geez, they have to fight their way back now from 11 match points. As good as Team Immunity are, this may be beyond them.
Well, that remains to be seen, of course, but I mean, they can't afford to make a footstep wrong here. They can't afford to make a single mistake, because if they do, their night will be over. They will draw this series. And let's remember, Counterpit places a premium on winning this series 2-0. You get extra points if you win. Goes without saying, but the premium is there. As it is, Diggs has fallen, but Ustillo, he's also gone down as well. So we're down to a 4-on-4 situation. Pex does have a Colt in hand though, Jim. They've been able to recover that weapon. The bomb will be planted in B though. With no CTs about, this should give IM enough time to set up well at the B and establish some form of fortress on the site. If I'm X5, I'm just looking for exit frags.
Yeah, and that is exactly what they're doing. They're not really rushing into any choke points just yet. They are grouping up as a team, all 3 of them there pushing through A. Now they do have an anchor at that site. STV does pick up James on that flank. Now, Ricker is making his presence known in those stairs and will just simply try and shy away. He does think that there's a possibility they did get behind him, and now he needs to try and charge out. But will he make his way out? He does get that frag onto STV, and unfortunately as my game crashes there, the headshot just a little bit too real. But I'd assume...
You're not the only one. My game's crashed as well. I'm just wondering whether the entire GoTV's just crashed on us. Just mine's just done the exact same thing. I'm hoping that you can still hear me when I'm talking.
Yeah, I'm hoping I can still hear you. So it is definitely a GoTV issue. We will try and...
Well, that's heartbreaking. The score, of course, being 15-5. So I'm hoping